Good evening and welcome to the City of Battle Creek, Michigan in the Battle Creek City Commission meeting for November 1st, 2022. We're a couple minutes behind schedule, but I'll guarantee everyone that we'll catch up tonight. I first would like to remind you, if you're listening at home and you haven't taken out an absentee ballot, our city clerk's office will be open at least till 8 p.m. tonight. And please stop down, do your voting, and then you can come up and watch the City Commission meeting all in one trip. So we're going to start the meeting with a moment of silence for our invocation. And then I'm going to call upon Commissioner Sophia to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able to for our moment of silence. Mr. Sophia.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Next item on our agenda is roll call. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Commissioner Blood?
Present.
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Herring?
Present.
Commissioner Lance?
Here.
Mayor Banky?
Here.
Commissioner Morris?
Here.
Vice Mayor Reynolds? Commissioner Sophia?
Here.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson?
Present.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is a proclamation. We have a proclamation for General Aviation Appreciation Month. And then we also will tie that into a presentation that our city manager will introduce, Phil Kroll, from our aviation director, to give us the report. So if we have anyone here from the airport for acceptance of the proclamation, please come on up. Thank you very much. Why don't we come over here, and then I'm going to have you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves so that it'll be more interesting and fun.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Phil Kroll. I'm the aviation director at the Battle Creek Executive Airport, so you'll get a brief presentation from me in a second, and I'll pass it over to the assistant aviation director.
Miles Weaver, assistant aviation director at the Battle Creek Executive Airport, and been serving as the operations manager up until recently for the 10 years. So 10 years I've been with the city.
And let me be the first to congratulate both of you on your new positions. I talked to our assistant city manager yesterday, and he informed me of that. I think that's great news, and I'm sure your families are going to be happy about being here in Battle Creek. So thank you very much. This is a long proclamation, so please allow me to read it. Whereas the city of Battle Creek has a significant interest in the continued vitality of general aviation, aircraft manufacturing, aviation educational institutions, aviation organizations, and community airports. And whereas general aviation and the Battle Creek Executive Airport at Kellogg Field have an immense economic impact on the city of Battle Creek. And whereas, according to the 2017 Michigan Aviation Systems Plan, general aviation in Michigan generates an estimated $5.2 billion in business revenues to the state's economy each year and supports more than 33,000 jobs and a payroll of $1.4 billion annually. And whereas the Battle Creek Executive Airport at Kellogg Field is one of the busiest airports in the state of Michigan, which is not widely known as there are no commercial flights landing or departing from this airfield. The airport is a gem and an asset of the city of Battle Creek. There is a true appreciation for the business and the manufacturers which operate out of the Battle Creek Executive Airport for their contribution to the continued development around the airfield. And whereas general aviation not only supports Michigan economy, it improves overall quality of life by supporting emergency medical and healthcare services, law enforcement, firefighting, and disaster relief, investments in sustainable fuels and technologies, and investments in innovative experimental technology, and by transporting business travelers to their destinations quickly and safely. And whereas general aviation has been deeply impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, causing an impact on operations, jobs, dependent industries, sectors, and communities. And whereas the United States faces a shortage of aviation professionals, leaders who should invest in this critical infrastructure to ensure future economic growth and our next generation of aviation professionals and pilots. Therefore, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Battle Creek, we do hereby proclaim that the month of November 2022 as General Aviation Appreciation Month in the Greater Battle Creek area, and we urge all the citizens of Battle Creek to recognize and support the Battle Creek Executive Airport and Kellogg Field and our aviation professionals. On behalf of the people and the City Commission, we want to present this to you. I'm going to stand aside and let both of you hold it, and hopefully someone will take your picture. Thanks, Ted. Well, congratulations, and we appreciate everything you're doing. It was a lengthy proclamation, but I think it really hit on some of the important subjects. Thank you, Ted. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is a presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Ted Deering.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and that was a good segue into our next item on the agenda. This is actually the first opportunity for Phil Kroll, who, as the Mayor pointed out, was recently appointed our Aviation Director, to present in front of this body. So we're pleased to have Phil come up and talk a little bit about the airport this evening and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Commissioners. As Ted said, my name is Phil Kroll. I am the Aviation Director at the Battle Creek Executive Airport. I've been working with the city since last October, so I've been here for a year. I was recently promoted in July, so that was very nice. I will keep this presentation to roughly 2 to 3 hours, so we'll get out of here in a good amount of time. I liked how other directors and chiefs have made that. I will keep it to 10 minutes and no more than 10 minutes. I have a stopwatch going, so I will stop promptly at 10 minutes, I promise. As the mayor pointed out, the Battle Creek Executive Airport provides a lot to the community. We don't have commercial flights, but I think with this presentation you'll see not only do we provide economic stimulus, jobs, opportunities for the community, but there's also some things there that we do that you might not have also been aware of. See if the clicker works.
Did you turn it on?
I think so. There we go. Sorry about that. So we will go over airport inspections, how we inspect the airport, how we're transitioning from an FAA-style inspection that's used at commercial service airports to a more state-specific inspection that we will be transferring to here in the near future. And then we're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, snow removal, because it is the month of November. There's a lot of subjects that I could talk about here at the airport, but in my condensed time, I will keep it to one of our upcoming subjects, and that's snow removal. Then we'll have some time at the end for any questions. There's also a quiz at the end, so I hope everybody's excited and ready for that, so take notes. Currently, the airport is operating under a certain federal aviation regulation. It's known throughout the business as Part 139. What is Part 139? It's just a specific federal code that the airport has to comply with. This code is very specific, and it really is meant for commercial service airports. What does that mean? If you've ever flown on an airplane before, and you've flown on United or Delta or American out of Kalamazoo or Detroit or Chicago, well, that's considered commercial air service. It's scheduled, you can buy a ticket, and then you can go on your flight to wherever you'd like. We currently don't have scheduled commercial air service at the airport. We have plenty of operations. We're the third busiest airport in the state. We don't operate United, Delta, American, any of the regional air carriers here. We did a long time ago, and the airport just kind of held on to that certification through that time period. So there are a lot of things that we have to do as a small airport to meet these large requirements that commercial service airports have to meet because of the 139 requirement. Having to meet those additional requirements and those additional standards puts a lot of strain on the smaller staff we have. We have to have additional supplies We require a lot from the Battle Creek Fire Department, and it doesn't satisfy a need that we have. We don't have commercial service. The FAA kind of wonders why we are maintaining this certificate. So, what we've really looked into over the past several months, really the last 6 months, were what are the pros and cons of it? Well, there really weren't any cons. There were plenty of benefits, which I've listed here. We believe it's in the best interest of the city and the airport to transition from just the 139 inspection to a state inspection. So there's no loss of safety, there's no loss of operations, there's no effect on any of the tenants. No one will notice anything at the airport except for the airport staff and the people operating it. We'll have a better opportunity to work with the state. They offer really more tailor-made, because they're used to working with smaller airports. They inspect the smaller airports such as Jackson and Mount Pleasant, and the airports are the cities that have smaller airports that don't have commercial air service. So they're used to really inspecting and certifying those types of airports, just like how we are here. Like I said, there really wasn't any negative impact to it. We couldn't get commercial service if we didn't have our 139 certificate, but if we ever wanted to have commercial air service, we could just go to the FAA and ask for it. So I've listed all of these benefits here. Again, removing dangerous chemicals that we have to maintain in order to hold our certificate. There won't be any impact to our tenants. We'll continue to receive funding. We'll continue to maintain a safe and efficient airport. We'll have the ability, like I said, to utilize resources that the state only provides to the airports that it inspects, and allows really more flexible training and response models that the FAA wouldn't allow us to do. So we're very excited to get the opportunity to transition the airport from really a commercial service style of inspection to this truly tailor-made inspection that is meant for general aviation airports throughout the state. So we're very excited for that. Now that we're into November, we've really started getting, not this week, we're really starting to get used to maybe looking at some snowfall. Again, hopefully not anytime soon, but this is when we start to train and practice and get everything ready for snow operations. So over these next couple slides, I'll give you an overview of the airport, some of the challenges we have during snow removal season, talk about our snow and ice removal plan, and then I'll show you some of the equipment that we use here. So again, just kind of a review for everybody. The airport itself is about 1,260 acres. It's 3 runways, 10,000-foot primary runway, so the main runway that we use is over 10,000 feet long. That's the 3rd longest in the state. So to give everybody perspective, there's over 200 airports in the state. We're the 3rd busiest with the 3rd largest runway. So a huge asset to have in a community, not only as a point of pride, but a truly sought after asset. To have an airport, but not only just to have an airport, but an airport with the 3rd largest runway, and to have a parallel runway and a crosswind runway that can accommodate multiple flights at the same time. So it's a fantastic asset that the city has there. Over 6 miles of taxiways, 2.4 million square feet of ramp space, and last year we had 94,659 operations. An operation is a takeoff or a landing. So we had over almost 95,000 takeoffs or landings at the airport. That was a record for the airport. We're already on pace. We've just passed about 75,000 operations through September. So hopefully, if that continues to trend in the right direction, we'll break last year's numbers as well. So just like in any, I'll make sure I'm staying on time, just like in any city, the businesses and the people are very important to the city. Same thing with the airport. The tenants and the people are very important to the airport. Our primary tenants include Western Michigan University's Flight School, which I'm an alumnus of, very proud. Duncan Aviation, Waco Aircraft Company, the 110th Michigan Air National Guard Wing, and the FAA Flight Inspection Office. These are all very important pieces of the airport. They all contribute to the economy, but they also contribute really to the wider global aviation industry as a whole. Obviously, pilot training and mechanical training with Western Michigan University. Duncan services aircraft from all over the world. Waco sells aircraft to all over the world. The Air National Guard obviously has a huge component with national defense, and our Flight Inspection Field Office services airports from as far away as North and South Dakota to Eastern Ohio to Southern Illinois. So the whole Great Lakes region and the whole world is really shaped and affected by this airport, which is really, really, again, a ginormous asset to have. So why do we do snow removal? In order to be the third busiest and best airport in the country, we have to maintain the airport and continue to operate from November to March. Unfortunately, we just don't shut down and say, hey, it's snowing, we have to go home. We have to clean and maintain the runways and taxiways and ramps so that we can continue to operate. We use an airport snow and ice control plan. That's really a playbook that we can use that's approved by the FAA that says, this is what we will clean first, this is what we will clean next, this is the pieces of equipment we'll use, this is what, during certain conditions, so ice, we will use this, snow, we'll use this wind direction will start here, this wind direction will start here. It really helps our staff and our tenants understand how we're going to remove the snow from the airport. Some of the challenges, obviously, if you've ever been out in snow, whether you've been driving in it or plowing it off your driveway, it's heavy, so wet snow is very heavy. Dry snow can fly everywhere, so it really depends on where the wind goes. So the different types that we have, ice is very hard to remove. Just operating and actually operating safely, it's very tough and challenging environment. So safety is one of our key cornerstones that we work with at the airport. That's why we have a pre-season snow and ice control meeting. The committee consists of tenants from Western, Duncan, Waco, the airport, the FAA. We just went over it last Tuesday, the 26th, how we're going to be working through the entire winter season. So we explained to them what we will be doing, how we will be closing runways, taxiways, what we plan to do, what priorities are really ranked. So the main runway is really a priority 1A, then the crosswind is a 1B. So we go through and we really tell them how we're going to clean the airport. Hopefully, if they have any questions, they can ask during the meeting, but they can also ask them anytime throughout the year. So we really just, we let them know, if you compare it to a city, we're going to clean I-94 first, then all the major roads, then all the side roads. So we really go out to our tenants. We have a meeting every fall, every October, and we tell them how we're going to clean this city that we have. So it's a really nice way for tenants and operators to get an understanding of, hey, how come they haven't cleaned my driveway yet or my road yet? Well, because the FAA tells us we have to do it in this fashion. The equipment that we use has evolved. We have a gentleman here standing with the shovel. Hopefully he changes out with the gentleman that's inside the truck. This was about 80 years ago. We now use these types of equipment. This is, I think, from 2 winters ago. Just to give you a kind of comparison, you look at all that snow, it looks really cool. The average snow blower that we use during our snow removal stuff that we're doing at our house, it can go through, about 24 tons an hour. That's a lot of snow, just what we would use at our house, about 24 tons of snow. This right here does about 2,500 tons of snow. So you can see that, yes, it looks very dramatic and very big, but it also does a lot of work very fast, very efficiently. So we have, before I move on to the next one, 2 of these, they're called H blowers. So they're just big giant snow blowers. They go into windrows and they push snow off into the grass. We have these brooms. We have 2 of these brooms. They go out there first when you get kind of that dusting of snow. It's starting to get a little slick. They'll go out there and they'll do exactly what it's doing there. They'll put the broom down. They can go a little faster. And they really just cast the snow off. They really don't pile it up into windrows or anything like that. They're kind of the first line of defense. The next thing you would bring out would be these big giant plows, what we're used to seeing on the streets and everything. We have the same thing, only our blades are about 20 feet wide. So they're a little wider than what you would see on the roads. They'll put those up into windrows. The snow blower will come through and then cast them off into the snow or into the grassy areas. So that's really the equipment and the tools that we have here at the airport. I'm sorry I was slightly over. I'll probably hear about it tomorrow morning. But we're very excited. We have a couple new team members to our crew, so it's every season is different. You get used to doing snow, and then you take 6 months off, and you kind of have to jump on the bike again. Yes, it comes back, but it takes an event or 2. But we're very excited. We have myself, Miles, Chuck Orr is also in a new position. We have a new operations manager. And then we really will have 2 of our operations maintenance technicians this will be their first winter at the airport. So we're very excited for that. I hope you learned something about the airport, snow removal, how important it is to the local economy, to the city, to the region, but really, again, to the country and to the world. There's assets that we have at this airport that no other airports in the country or in the world have. So it's truly an asset and truly a point of pride that the city should be extremely proud of. So thank you so much for
Thank
that.
you,
But with
Phil.
that, I can
And
take any
I'm
questions.
going to see if there's any questions of the commission.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Commissioner Wilson?
thank you. 94,659, what did you call them? Operations.
Yes.
So what do you credit that increase to?
That's a very good question. When I've talked with, I'll say that Western Michigan, because they're a flight school, they take about half of those. So if you count about 50,000 of those being, again, within about 50 miles of the airport, they were able to maintain, there's still a very large pilot shortage, they were able to kind of maintain the number of operations even through COVID, but we dipped down about 20,000 operations to that. Duncan is the second, really the largest tenant, but they're the second largest operator. They have the second largest number of operations there. They've told me that they're just seeing an extremely large increase in business. So Duncan is, the more business that Duncan and these other tenants are getting, the more business the airport gets. So I would attribute that, again, quick rise that we saw out of COVID to Duncan and kind of that world economy of people continuing to invest in aviation.
Thanks. So my follow-up question to that then, which might be obvious to others, but for these increased operations, if they're tenants, does that increase the rate they pay to the airport to be tenants there?
That's a very good question. It depends on the size of the aircraft. So if you exceed a certain size, then you start paying a landing fee. So every aircraft has a certain weight to it, and the larger the weight, and they'll know that because just like a car, if you can think of a compact car versus an SUV versus a pickup truck, those all have different weights. Well, the airport has a system in place where we know if a small plane like Western lands versus a large private jet. Well, that large private jet gets charged a substantial amount of money. I'd have to look it up. Whereas the small, just if me and you were to get in a little prop plane like Western has, we don't actually charge them anything. They mostly just get fuel, or they land and they go. But yes, really should be the more operations you get, the more money you get in fuel, landing fees, any other types of business that they could go to if they went to Waco Kitchen or if they did business with Duncan. So yes, it should generally correlate to more operations equal more revenue or more really economic impact for the airport and the city.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission questions at this time? Commissioner Linmore Gray, then Commissioner Jim Lance.
Thank you again for being here. I was wondering, is there room for growth? You have all these partners out there that help make up the airport. Are there other opportunities for other people to come in and be a part of that family?
Yes, there are, absolutely. So we're currently developing and looking to develop the entire west side of the airport. So I had a map up there, and I guess I could click back. I still have the remote. So if you look at, there's kind of that cyan, that light blue line at the top, and then to the left of that, there's another light blue line. That whole area to the left there, to the west side, there's roughly 200 acres or so that could be potentially developed at the airport. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done to get that to develop, so access to it, utilities, making sure everything's level over there. But yes, the current tenants we have, they could all develop and increase over there. But I think outside tenants would love a space like that. It's pretty crowded in the middle of the airport between Duncan and Waco and the FAA. That's pretty well developed, but there's really there's nobody on the west side right now. So companies could come in here, see that, and take a number of different size parcels if they wanted, and start developing a number of different aviation or aerospace industries could come in. So yes, there's definitely room for growth, which is, again, another huge asset that the city has. Most airports like Kalamazoo, they don't have really much developable land left. So it's great.
Thank you.
So with respect to the developing of the land, what do you need from the city? How much money?
Well, I haven't come to a finite number, but I will one day. I think, it comes down to a lot of what do we need now? Well, I think right now we need something to plan for it and market it. Then once you have a plan in place, you're able to go out and market it, and you're able to say, hey, look, we can support this type of industry, or we can, whether it's advanced air mobility with a drone or UAS type of market, or it's additional expansion from your current tenants. What do they need? What are they looking for? So I think going forward with a plan, a marketing plan, and going out to not just the current tenants we have, but really anyone in the aviation industry and saying, hey, look, you can be in Battle Creek, and this is what you can have, and this is what we can offer. That's, I think, what I would need. The dollar amount, that's a good question. I haven't settled down to exactly what it would be yet, but it would be something in the, hey, you've got a great product. Well, the next step is you have to market it. So you have to take that out there, and you have to let people know that you have this, again, great resource and available land for people to come out here and invest in the city and invest in the airport. So I will hopefully get you, as soon as I can, some kind of what do we need here for getting this plan in place and getting marketing. I will say, too, that we are using federal dollars as soon as they release those to get an airport layout plan approved, and that truly can be the start to a marketing plan. So we can have anything from parcel sizes and drawings to what our current tenants want, to what future tenants may need, and that can be part of our marketing plan to say, hey, this is what we'd like to see, but what would other people like to see? What would an aerospace defense contractor like to see? Like Lockheed Martin, what would somebody like Boeing like to see? What are these big companies that are looking to grow and expand because aviation isn't going anywhere? What are they looking for? So that's part of what we're going to be doing with that plan.
So in your assessment, the airport, while a great asset, is an underutilized asset?
It definitely has not, yes, it definitely has not reached its fullest potential yet. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Linmore Gray and Commissioner Lance. Are there any other questions? Commissioner Blood.
Thank you, sir. So thank you for being out here. You did a great job, and I hope you don't get scolded for your time or anything like that, because I think it helps us learn and identify utilization of the airport and the fact that there's a lot more we can do. I would encourage any commissioners or future commissioners that haven't been out there to visit. I did a tour of the facility prior to you coming on, and it was wonderful to see what a unique asset Battle Creek is. I believe there are only 5 in the country FAA sites that do that flying and seeing what happened and what went wrong with the flights, and we're lucky enough to have an FAA building here within Battle Creek, which is unique. Like you pointed out, we're the 3rd busiest, we have the 3rd largest runway. We really are uniquely set here in Battle Creek, and we have, as you stated, an airport that is underutilized that can appeal to so many companies like Boeing or Lockheed. Where I grew up, Boeing was where everyone worked out in Arizona, so if you ever want to go out there, I know someone who used to work for Boeing. I would love to make introductions. So I am eager to see what you do, although I won't be here serving on the commission. Thank you for explaining all of this and bringing this to light. It's really awesome, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Blood. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Phil, you did a good job. I'll remember this at your next presentation.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. You did very nice. Next item on our agenda is Chair noting any added or deleted resolutions.
There were none.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is petitions, communications, and reports.
There were none.
Thank you. Next is introduction of ordinance. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
The subject property of the proposed rezone, 175 College Street, is situated along the west side of College Street, approximately 220 feet to the south of the intersection of College Street and Emmett Street West. The property is currently zoned T3 Neighborhood Commercial District, with the applicant seeking a rezoning of the property to a T4 Downtown Commercial. This area of the city is fairly unique given the large diversity of zoning classifications within a relatively small geographic area. This proposed ordinance would rezone 175 College Street, parcel number 9730-00-052-0, from T3 Neighborhood Commercial District to T4 Downtown Commercial District.
Move for the introduction of ordinance 13-2022.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to introduce ordinance 13-2022. If you'd like to make public comment on this ordinance introduction, then please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you after it's read by the clerk, and then come forward to the podium where you have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address before making your comment. I'm going to reach out to Councilor Richard Lindsay to see if there's anything he would like to say first.
I would just say just a couple of words. This because you asked about it, so and I'll be glad to answer any questions as well. Summit Point has been located for a number of years. So Summit Point is the Calhoun County Mental Health Authority, has been located at 140 Michigan Avenue for a number of years. Over the last few years, saw the need for additional psychiatric care that was basically a 24-hour type of operation. And this came about because essentially your options, if Summit Point wasn't open during the time that you had need, was to go to a hospital. And what you ended up in a hospital was often sitting for 24, 48 hours or longer, waiting for a bed to open up, waiting for the right kind of care to be available. And because there was not enough space at the 140 Michigan Avenue location, Summit Point worked with Bronson to buy 175 College Street, which was a building that was sitting empty at that point. Had plenty of room for the 24-hour psychiatric urgent care facility. So that was done through grants and through a couple different partnerships in the city and the state, and that opened in March of 2021. So since March of 2021, that facility has been open, and Summit Point is now in the process of moving basically the rest of the offices from 140 Michigan Avenue into this, and then also it's going to add a pharmacy there for the customer's use. And so in the process of doing that, it came up through review with the city. And I think we started construction, and then in the middle of construction, I think there were some changes at the city, and so the city said, we think it would make sense if you asked to rezone this property. And of course, we're glad to do that and to go through the rezoning process. And then later on the agenda is also the special use permit for the pharmacy that's going to be added as part of this. So we're very excited about this expansion. It's a great expansion of services for mental health in Calhoun County and in the city of Battle Creek. And so we're very excited about this going forward. And I'm glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, we'll do that in just a second. We're going to see if there's any other public comment, and if we have questions, the commission will ask. Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, sir. Come on.
Hello, everybody. Franklin Ballard, 35 Christie Road, Battle Creek, Michigan. Just because this is Greek to me, I was trying to figure out why you needed to change. Actually, you spoke of it, but is that T something, a medical license or something like that? The reason why you say that, and why is when you say downtown, that means expanding downtown to extend over to like the Emmett Street or College Street. So I don't know if I need to.
Well,
be
Franklin, let me
on
be
that.
the first to tell you, you're not the only one that was confused.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn it over to Ted Deering, who will explain the confusion, and maybe by tomorrow it'll sink in. But it's not been easy.
Thank you, guys.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, just quickly, and thank you for that question. T3 and T4, as they're referenced here, are just how we reference the zoning districts within our zoning ordinance. And the T3 and T4 districts are generally commercial districts. The T4 is referred to as a downtown commercial because it generally refers to the type of commercial you see in a downtown area, but it does not mean that it's exclusive to the downtown. It's just the nature of zoning in that particular area, and we've used that label to identify it. T3 is what we call neighborhood commercial, and again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's only going to be in a certain area, but typically it's in areas that are you have a transition from nearby commercial to residential. So it's not necessarily a medical designation, it's a zoning designation, and it wouldn't be unusual, for example, to have a T4 even though it's associated with the downtown in other areas outside of the downtown.
Thank you very much, Ted. Franklin, I'm sure you'll have additional questions, but we'll work with you. Thank you. Are there any? Yes, ma'am.
Autumn Smith, former Emmett Township Zoning Board of Appeals member. I just had a question. Is this going to change the footprint of the zoning? And will previous things be grandfathered in, especially with you explaining the confusing T thing standing for medical or whatever?
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm not sure I completely understood the question there. Don't know if she's-
That's understandable. I've been on a zoning board of appeals, so the footprint is, my understanding from what it is the actual layout of what the original intent for the plan of that building or that site to be for. And then, as you well know, and I could be wrong, because like I said, I was in a different township, but certain things can be grandfathered in. Certainly, if you were going to change that to a candy store, it obviously wouldn't follow the medical things, and obviously some of the things grandfathered in. But if it's becoming a medical to a medical to a medical, what are the zoning differences, and is there going to be any grandfathers in? And is it going to change the footprint, the original footprint that was laid in to what it was supposed to be? And if you don't understand how that works, I would suggest that maybe you further educate before we make decisions, since it seems to be confusion all around.
Well, let me say this. They are building a 1,300 square foot addition to the existing building. That's all you're doing, correct?
I think to answer the question, it's my understanding that if we had proceeded under the T3, the existing zoning, that we would have been non-conforming. And so we would have had to have gone to the Zoning Board of Appeals and asked for a variance. And because of the zoning change, which is being requested, we will be conforming going forward, but still under that new zoning designation, we still need a variance to be able to add on to the building, which is what the other piece is for the special use permit. So it's clear to me, but I'm also an attorney, so things aren't always as clear as I explain them. So if anybody has any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
All right. Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, John Kennefick.
John Kennefick, 234 South Avenue. There's no problem for me having whatever is going on there. It's just, it is rather interesting because I remember when they were doing census tracts for the code department, they were doing it in systematic census tract zones. The first zone, which was never touched, was the downtown. That was the business district. But the next zone above that in the census tract was the area that we're talking about right now, above the Zone 1 census tract area, which puts them right in the smack of the middle of the tract that they used to do 2, 3, 4 census tracts as they did the systematic code. So is that part, when they come through, are they going to do the same thing? Is that the same procedures when you do a procedure to sweep that area, which was not really business zoned? It wasn't the downtown, and that area of the downtown census tract was never touched. Only the areas 2, 3, 4, and all the way around the city of Battle Creek were touched because they were more residential than anything else. So that's going to definitely bring up a thing where I never thought of the business district that far up by Emmett Street, a little zone by itself. It's kind of a strange thing. And it used to be not that long ago that Summit Point used to be in that zone, which is near the old Enquirer building, Enquirer News. So that was within the first census tract where it belonged within the business district. This is way outside that. Interesting comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? Okay, questions of the commission for Attorney Lindsay? Are there any questions? Commissioner Blood.
Yes, but sir, before I start with you, can I ask a clarifying question of city staff? No disrespect, Ted, you did great, but I do see that we have city staff here. Ms. Gillette, is it okay if I ask her, what? Can I ask her a few questions? Because sometimes when she explains things to me, it like clicks. Ms. Gillette, are you available for some questions? And I'm guessing this might be Mr. Sullivan? Yes. Oh, fantastic. Hi, Mr. Sullivan. How are you?
Good.
Good. So as I think Ted explained it, and I'm just kind of checking my own clarification here, T3 and T4 don't necessarily have to do with their placement in relation to a downtown. It has to do with the type of building or the type of use that is going to be, not necessarily where it's located. So downtown, in my mind, might be considered Michigan and off a block or two. However, there can be something a mile to away from what I think is downtown that could be this T4 downtown commercial district. Is that correct?
That is correct. So zoning areas, zoning districts have very specific uses. And so it's the use, as you mentioned, not specifically the location. But as you can imagine, there are themes throughout the city where you have your high-density commercial, industrial, and those areas more commonly abut one another. And then the type of use becomes less dense, less extreme, shall we say, down to our residential areas. So when Assistant City Manager Deering mentioned T3 being closer to our downtown districts, those would be your small commercial businesses. T4s would have more intensive use, and then it goes up from there.
Okay, fantastic. And relating to another question that was brought up in regards to things being changed around the site and how that's going to impact that specific area, I always value all the work your staff puts into surveying and checking. How is that going to impact that area, and how might it change anything?
So the current zoning and the proposed rezoning both have the allowable use as it exists right now. So there would be no difference or distinction in regards to the conformity of the use.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for helping me understand that. Just because it has that name and that designation, that might make people think, oh, wait, this belongs in a downtown space. This isn't what I would assume would be downtown. I appreciate the differentiating of that, so it's easier to understand. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I think we're good.
No? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blood.
And then, oh, sir, may I finish my question for the attorney? Oh, no, thank you, Ms. Gillette and Mr. Sullivan. So thank you for being here. What kind of impact will this be for Summit Point and the customers who have access to this pharmacy being on site and this expansion? How might that impact the customers that need that facility?
I would say incredibly positive impact. Again, the difference is if you have an emergency issue for a mental health issue, you go to Bronson, you go to Oak Lawn, you sit, you may or may not have a pharmacy on site, you may or may not have access to what you need to be able to be treated. This is to have everything in one location, to be able to treat the patients, customers that we call them, but to be able to provide them the kind of care they need as opposed to having to be shipped out to someplace else from an emergency department. So very, very positive.
Great. So it's taking that care and it's really taking it and making it inclusive so someone can have what they need, where they need it, when they need it.
Correct.
All right. Terrific. Thank you.
Yep. And I would encourage, if anyone hasn't visited, love to have tours. So please visit if you get an opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments, questions, or clarifications?
I would just comment.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yeah, for folks who find themselves requiring hospitalization or stays because of mental health reasons, many leave with prescriptions that they often will not fill. So I really want to applaud Summit Point for thinking about what they can do to minimize the impact on those folks, because they're in a space typically that's really challenging to navigate. So just, I want to applaud Summit Point for thinking about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, I sense we're ready to vote. Please vote on the introduction of ordinance 13-2022. Ordinance 13-2022 has been introduced. Congratulations, Mr. Thanks. Next item on our agenda is adoption of ordinance. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, ordinance 10-2022.
The
rules do not distinguish between an individual making traditional public comment and an applicant who has a right to appeal a final decision of the City Commission. Applicants are traditionally not strictly limited to 3 minutes to present their case, but that rule has not been formalized in the ordinances. If passed, the proposed amendment would add subsection F to make that distinction. Applicants would still be obligated to comply with the other rules, including but not limited to not being repetitive and speaking on topic. The proposed amendment would also add subsection 5 as a safety measure to prohibit members of the public from stepping past the podium into the well of the chambers to prevent approaching the dais without having been invited by the mayor or whomever is presiding at the meeting, or requesting and being granted permission to approach. Lastly, the proposed amendment would revise how frequently the Ethics and Meeting Rules Committee must meet. This resolution seeks to adopt Ordinance 10-2022 to amend Section 2, Article XVII of Chapter 212, Rules of Procedure of the Commission, to distinguish applicant comments and to oppose a safety provision, and Section 5 of Chapter 212, to amend the meeting requirements of the Ethics and Meeting Rules Committee.
Move for the adoption of Ordinance 10-2022.
Support.
So moved and supported to adopt Ordinance 10-2022. Are there any public comments at this time? Yes, Kathy.
Kathy Antea, 117 Park Ridge. Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little disappointed that we put 3 items into one ordinance introduction because I am vehemently opposed to this theoretical safety proposal. I care deeply about each of your well-beings and your safety, so please don't misunderstand my comments in regards to that. But my understanding is this stanchion is going to be coiled ropes in front of the dais on which you folks are sitting, and I really don't think that's going to provide any safety at all, frankly. Any adamant or angry individual would be able to push past that. Any angry or disagreeable individual would be able to yell at you even from this point, or throw particular items at you. So if we're making a mistake in calling this a safety suggestion, I really don't think that's the case. I really think this is in response to Mr. John Kennefick approaching each of you and giving to each of you something that nobody wanted. I think what this particular part of the ordinance is going to do is prevent me from coming up here and talking to Vice Mayor Carla Reynolds, or me approaching Mayor Banky and asking a question. Now, I do recognize that you can invite me up there, but at the same time, that really just, it increases the distance and the barrier that the city commissioners are putting up in front of the residents. It makes me feel like you don't want us here, you don't need us here, you don't really think that it's okay if I come up and chat with you. It really doesn't increase your safety at all. And so I really don't like this idea of us calling it a safety barrier. Okay, let's just call it, let's keep John away from the commissioners if we can. Ordinance. You know, John, I really think you should run for mayor because they're doing some things for you anyways. The other thing is I understand that the desks on which you sit are bulletproof. Did I understand that correctly? That if you really feel threatened and need to take cover, that you are able to. And quite frankly, I honestly, despite the fact that I've attended a lot of these meetings, I really haven't felt any sincere threats to any of you individuals. Perhaps I misinterpreted what some people were saying. I also quickly would like to talk, I'm in total support of the 529 supporting for Summit Point expansion of their, I think that is a fabulous idea, that we have a pharmacy immediately available for people who are looking for especially emergency mental health help. I think that's a fabulous idea because...
All right, Kathy, that's under public comment.
Oh, pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, Autumn.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Autumn Smith, former member of Emmett Township Zoning Board. I do also agree with the woman that just spoke before me. You are creating a distance, and no offense, but I've had to serve subpoenas to many of you, and I've tried to do it outside of this public forum. And that has, and I mean many of you previous serving, because I see a lot of new faces and stuff, and that's legal business. And when you prevent that from happening in private offices in a public building, but then you guys create barriers, it's for the best protection of both parties or all parties involved to be able to access their public officials. If you guys are so scared of public and addressing them, you guys shouldn't be public officials. If you guys fear the public that much, you guys should hire private security or whatever. But it does make communication very difficult, whether it be peaceful communication, whether it be court communication, whether it be even me as a journalist seeking comment from somebody. I've got to chase you around the building, find you somewhere, jump a rope or whatever thing you have here. You guys are supposed to be accessible to the people. And I don't think anybody, that woman has said she's never felt threatened and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you feel threatened or something, there's obviously police officers present. We have a security guard downstairs, so you guys have resources, bulletproof things. I've heard there's safety buttons underneath there that you can hit too if you guys need help. But I really think it's shutting down the discourse and communication and interaction with our public officials. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment tonight? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Arlene Montgomery, and I live at 119 Walter Avenue. I didn't come here to comment on this, but I agree with the two other ladies. Our public officials are supposed to serve the public. They're not supposed to hide behind anything. They're not supposed to do whatever you need to do to put down disagreement. You're supposed to listen to us, and you're not supposed to erect barriers between us. So I agree with those two ladies.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Yes, John.
John Kennepick, 234 South Avenue. An assistant city attorney made a comment that the reason why I subpoenaed you right in front of the city commission meeting was from some sort of publicity. When asked by the judicial system, I explained back to them, it's a perfect opportunity to serve subpoenas. You don't have to run around and catch them. They're already here. At no time, fashion, or form when I served those subpoenas was anybody in danger. I simply handed them out, and as I passed the mayor, he says, well, you have to hand that to the city clerk. I said, not somebody who processed this. Information came to me that said there was something that was incorrect in the subpoenas that I'd served. So I went back to the Hall of Injustice, just a little ways away, and talked to the district court for where I served those subpoenas. They said there was nothing wrong. But there was something wrong, and that will be corrected. So the next time they're served where you will not be able to slip around this. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to come up here and do that, but at the time I saw the mayor, and as I was serving him, he said, you can't do this. I said, process servers don't have to live to that. I don't see anything in your resolution that says a process server cannot come up and serve anybody with a subpoena. That's part of their job, whether it be myself serving a subpoena for somebody else or somebody serving a subpoena for me. That still means you're accessible, but apparently you're running a little scared, I suppose. Maybe at any time did you actually feel threatened? Did I actually made a threatening move against the city commission when I served you? Very professional and very smooth. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Yes, Adam.
Hello, Adam Michael, a former Bedford Township Supervisor. I'm not really surprised to hear that you're looking to make more changes to close off from the people. You know, it's just the standard that we've seen for decades in our local municipalities. And, you know, it's sad. It really is sad when we don't have an understanding, truly, of what representation is. because you all are elected representatives. And this is, I've said this so many times. I've said this to so many boards now. And it's the same thing, because we have the same problem everywhere. We have a system of representation in all of our communities that's been taken over by a system of political power. And here in this community, we have a system that makes you all scared of the people because you do actions that are unjust over them. You rule over them instead of represent them. These times here at these meetings can be contentious. They're designed to be. It's where we hash out ideas and difficult topics before you are elected representatives that are then supposed to make the difficult decisions based on the contentious words that you have to hear sometimes. But what we see in this community across, not just in Battle Creek, but by the Battle Creek Police across this community, silencing of political opposers, opposition. This ordinance that you're looking at pass here right now is just another sign that you all are just scared of your constituents that you call them, right? Not your community members that you're a part of, that you represent, but those numbers, those constituents that politicians know how to manipulate and control to maintain their positions of power, which some of you have been doing for a long time here. But that reign is coming to an end. Because these types of ordinances that you continue to pass is just another sign that you're not representatives, that you're too scared to be in a position that you're in. A lot of you want to talk about unity, unifying in the community. But right now you're going to pass to make sure you put up a barrier so that people can't approach you in any way without bowing a knee and asking permission. We're not subjects here any longer. We're not supposed to be. I'm not a subject here. Think about these things. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments at this time? Any other public comments? Seeing none, any commission comments at this time? Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. As I read this, I didn't see anything about anything being added to the dais at all. It was really just lifting up the fact that we would want to maintain some control over who approaches the dais. So I completely agree that there is a need for us to be accessible. I think that any one of us, and I know everyone on this commission really well now, our cell phone numbers are on the website. We answer emails. We are out in community. We stay after meetings. I don't think that us having some sense of safety in a meeting space is asking too much. And I don't think that's coming from a place of fear. It's coming from a place of our current reality. And so I appreciate everything that is said right now. I want to say that I'm on the tail end of my first term. I'm not running again. I have really appreciated being here, but I have never met a more dedicated group of accessible commissioners, and I truly believe that. So it's disappointing to hear that the perception of this, and I see head shaking in the audience. That's fine. I can tell you from my perspective and where we're up here, we're as accessible as we can be, including when we're here in this physical space. When I come into the meetings, I walk through the space and talk to the folks that I know, and I stay after and make sure that I'm available to folks as well, as do others that are on this commission. So I do appreciate Ms. Antea's point that we have multiple things going on in this that make it a little hard to peel apart. But I do think overall, as somebody who sits on the committee that developed these suggestions, that they were with the intent of really trying to make the business of commission go smoothly, which is the purpose of these meetings. And so I just wanted to voice that opinion. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments at this time? Commissioner Blood.
Thank you, sir. So thank you for everyone who's speaking up, and I appreciate the city attorney making it clear to me that the stanchions that were mentioned are a part of the background supporting possible ideas to move forward with, not necessarily written into the ordinance. There are a few things that, I would have loved to have this pieced apart when we were looking at it. And so as we go through here, and I'm just going to kind of take my time because I can, is when we talk about applicants, the first part, being obligated to comply with other rules, including but not limited to not being repetitive and speaking on topic. There are some people that get up to speak at that podium and are nervous, and they're going to repeat something, and they're going to perhaps deviate and be off topic, and we're only giving them 3 minutes when they used to have 5, and we're interrupting them if they make a mistake or they do say something. There was already a fine gentleman already interrupted tonight and not able to proceed with his 3 minutes because he may have been repeating himself, or someone may have assumed they knew what he was going to say. That time is theirs to speak, whether they say the same thing over and again and not, or they stay on topic or off topic. It's their time to speak with us. And I would want to protect that for them, be it 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And so I know if you were to interrupt my mom when she gets up at this podium, she's going to have to feel like she's going to have to start over, or she's going to miss something. And I don't think that's fair. And so I'd want to protect that. I feel that the second part of it, putting that wording in of, not coming past these walls into this, whatever we call it, the well, okay, we can put that down and that's fine. People are going to do what they're going to do. I personally love that we have our police officers. I know Chief is here for several meetings, and he has his staff here. There's staff sometimes inside, outside, downstairs. And I have felt that Chief is very observant, keeping an eye on things. Staff is observant, keeping an eye on things. I don't feel nervous, even when someone walks up to rightly or wrongly subpoena me. And so for me, having a stanchion, although I will not be on the commission, I would encourage future commissions not necessarily to put up more barriers, to just be mindful of that space and how we sit in it and we're in it. I think that during business meetings, obviously we would hope that people would be respectful and let us do business and not meandering around, but they're going to make their choices. People get up and exit, come in late. As commissioners, we're moving. It's kind of part of that, and so to be fluid in the space. And then in regards to the last part, meeting on an annual basis, I think that's great. I support that. I highly feel that meeting, that group, the Ethics and Meeting Rules Committee, should meet annually to review things, see how everyone's feeling. So as it's written, this is not something that I am necessarily going to support. I would even possibly like to see it come back broken apart. But again, I won't be here by the time it gets done if that were to happen. So this is just my feelings for this point. And again, just because I can and I don't have to stand at the podium yet for at least another month, remember that when commissions started, way back before any of us were here, commissions were about people coming together and debating. And people were coming together and having conversations. And then as they had those conversations over time, they decided to pick people out of that crowd and that conversation to be the spearhead and get it done. Then we came through in elections and things, and we started choosing people. That's great, but it's still about debate. Yes, it's a business meeting. I understand that. But you know what? We're not always available for business during the week. Some of us have full-time jobs and we can't do business. And this is the time that we have to listen and do business. And so I would ask us to be sensitive to that. This is when some people have time to do business with us. And this is the time that we have signed up for, sometimes late at night, to sit here and have conversations and do business. It's not always easy. That's what we signed up for. Thanks.
Any other commission comments? Commissioner Morris.
I would just like to echo what Commissioner Blood said. I will not be supporting this as is. Being a commissioner and sitting up here sometimes may be uncomfortable when people disagree with you and come in your face, but it's part of the job. Part of growing is being uncomfortable, and I want our city to grow, so I want to support fostering relationships between the constituents and the commissioners as is.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mayor, excuse me,
Commissioner, City Attorney, please.
if I could offer some help. I think some people are getting confused. So this is during the meeting. This is about public comment. This has nothing to do with before the meeting starts or at the end of the meeting. This is strictly for during the meeting, during the business meeting, and as Commissioner Wilson noted, to try to keep this business meeting moving smoothly. So speak to folks, speak to commissioners before. There's not a problem going in there. This proposed rule is strictly for during the meeting. There's nothing in the proposed ordinance amendment about stanchions. That's in background material, so it could be something that that could try out. The idea, the suggestion of it really was just to help people remember in that little opening there so they don't unintentionally violate it. And I did have a discussion with Chief Blocker, and so at least it's recommended. It was favored from the police because sure, they're here, but if you don't have a rule that would prevent people from stepping past that podium into here, no rule has been violated until they do something. So it kind of gives them a little heads up if somebody is stepping forward when the rule says they can't, that maybe there's a problem. So I just wanted to offer that clarification.
Thank you, City Attorney. Commissioner Sophia.
I was actually going to ask City Attorney Steele to clarify, because it was my understanding that that prohibition was only during the meeting time, not before, not after. So I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments at this time?
I have a follow-up, sir.
Commissioner Blood?
Yep, follow-up. Jill, totally understand the scope of this to be during meetings. Like I said, having the words in there and having that, again, that isn't an issue if you have to make that. I don't appreciate the first part in regards to that part of it, and I think the wording. Also, you know, I would expect that, like earlier, when a young lady came up and had questions, directed them to Ted, he responded. That was a back and forth discussion, which at times we have been encouraged during meetings not to do. So this is a business meeting, yes. However, what I'm trying to reiterate is that this business meeting, to conduct that business, sometimes those things have to take place, and that's what I would like to encourage. And I would like to have residents that choose to stand up here not be prohibited from repeating themselves or diverging off a topic. Again, I feel those are their minutes, and to perhaps take that away from them because they stutter or they repeat or they're trying to make a point and they're not sure if we get it. Again, I think that's unnecessary, but thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on the adoption of ordinance 10-2022? The adoption of resolution ordinance 10-22 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is resolution 521, ordinance for the adoption of ordinance 11-2022. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Vice Mayor Reynolds, supported by Commissioners Gray and Herring, requested that chapters 833 and 835 regulating medical marijuana and adult recreational marijuana facilities be amended to expand the permissible hours of operation. The ordinance currently prohibits these facilities to operate between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. This amendment, if approved, allows the businesses to operate until midnight. This proposed ordinance, 11-2022, would amend chapters 833 medical marijuana facilities and 835 adult use marijuana establishments to expand the hours of operation update definitions, and make additional clarifications.
Move for the adoption of ordinance 11-2022.
Support.
So moved and supported to adopt ordinance 11-2022. Are there any public comments at this time? Are there any public comments? Yes, Adam.
Just something to think about when it comes to these, the marijuana tax and these businesses. We have a municipal income tax here that really you all should think about repealing because we have all of these marijuana tax revenues now. So some people out here have some questions. I'm not sure if they're out there on the web. If you guys can just help get us these numbers, would be fantastic. We're curious, how much money has the city made from the medical, recreational, and marijuana businesses to date? What have you done with that money to benefit the people and the taxpayers? This is where something like repealing that municipal tax, because you have a very big revenue stream now, would make a lot of sense. Something that's really beneficial for the people. So what trust have you given us that you know that you're fiscally responsible at all? There's a whole lot of things that have gone on in this community that show that this board over the years does not do the best things with our money, such as the unnecessary police station that cost approximately $17 million, but when it's all said and done and paid for, is going to be 40 to 45 million taxpayer dollars. So maybe had we looked into using some of the marijuana to offset that and to pay that off faster so that we don't have such a ginormous burden on the taxpayers here. But I do support leaving the dispensaries open until midnight. You know, I mean, they're right. I mean, it really doesn't make sense that we would prevent them from doing business. But again, just what solid proof do we have that you're not just voting this in to help pad the pockets of some of the tyrants that are in control in this community already? Again, because that's all the majority of the people that have been involved in this community have seen. And then they get silenced. They get arrested unjustly for speaking out at meetings. So hopefully my talents or my comments here don't get me retaliated against. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Ballard.
I think I misheard Franklin Ballard again, 35 Christie Road. I may have misheard the times. I thought I heard from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. or something. First, before I finish everything, what was that time zone? I missed that.
It was 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. is when they are not allowed to be open.
Oh, okay, they were not allowed.
Correct.
Okay, may I ask another question? How many dispensaries do we have that are for medical and not recreation in this small town? Who knows that answer?
Franklin, we're going to have to get an answer to that question to you.
Okay.
I know how to find you, so
Yes,
I'll
and
get
just
that.
to let you know, I do appreciate people who need the herbal point of medical marijuana. I really do. And it's, for me being my age, it's kind of hard for me to adopt the fact that we are now using that as we now have alcohol in grocery stores everywhere, you know. So it might take me a minute to get used to that, but I would like to know how many we have here. And I don't know how we can vote on anything tonight, though, Mayor, without knowing that answer that I asked, because I'm uneasy right now with my old self.
I will get back to you on it. Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? Yes, John.
John Kennevic, 234 South Avenue. I guess I love speaking with you. In regards to the money that's being taken, I have no problems with them having their own hours. And then it occurred to me again, which was spoken, that there's an extra tax used on the medical marijuana or the recreational marijuana. And that's just another income stream. That's on the tax bond schedule. And that's about 63 pages. And usually what happens when the government needs to increase costs, they do a whole group of cost increases in one resolution, like on July 5th, where they had more than 250 cost increases. And medical marijuana and recreational marijuana are in that list too. So as you get stronger, as far as that goes, it's interesting that there would be double taxes on there. So you're taking in more money, or the state's taking in more money. It's just another income stream. And when people go out to do certain things, regardless of this recreational or medical marijuana, and they're paying something for a product, that tax is locked into the price of that product, which is another tax against their lives. They have a lot of those, and you're not eliminating them, you're just increasing the number and keeping the dollars for the government itself. Is this for the people, or is this for the government? Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Any other public comments? Any commission comments? Commissioner Wilson.
Getting it all in while I can, right? Thank you, Mayor. I want to say, first and foremost, this was a request of local businesses. And we say as a community we want to be pro-business. This is what it looks like to listen and to actually create change as a result of what we heard. So I want to commend my fellow commissioners who listened and who brought it forward to us. We can't honestly say that we are being pro-business if we don't actually change the policies that are limiting them from doing so. And the fact that Emmett Township actually had hours that were expanded beyond ours meant that, there's this invisible line you pass between Battle Creek and Emmett Township. They were just going there, and people were spending money other places. And so I just want to applaud my fellow commissioners. I am excited for the businesses that are able to expand and hopefully increase their profits. And I look forward to doing more of that and reading more about that in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Vice Mayor, do you want to say anything on this?
I just want to maybe just second what my fellow Commissioner Wilson. Why would our city businesses lose money, and their business go to the township? It just didn't make sense. They're there to make money and earn a living as well as the township. So it was appropriate to do.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blood?
Yes, sir, thank you. I echo what these fine ladies have said, and bringing this forward and getting it placed on the agenda. Again, a simple way to listen to those who are on the ground in the arena doing the work and how we can help and support them. So I'm happy that this is coming forward, and I might encourage our city staff or the next commission. I'm not sure how we make this request, but there seems to be quite a bit of interest about marijuana facilities. We even have a news channel here today that I think is specifically wanting to hear about this conversation we're having. So having that resource available online for the public, one, to know, it's kind of new, right? It's not something we've been doing for a long time. My mom would say she's in the same group as you, Mr. Ballard, just kind of figuring out what this is going to look like and having some accessible information as how is this impacting the bottom line? Where are these facilities? How are these taxes being spent? How much is it bringing in? Per capita, Battle Creek, Calhoun County has a lot of marijuana facilities compared to some other counties here in the state. And I would love to know, just like with the airport, what's unique? How are we servicing people, and how are the small businesses, especially around this industry, impacting the local economics? And so maybe making some of that available online, Ted or anybody at the city who can, might be a neat, fun resource to have available for some folks. So thank you, and congratulations to those if this passes. And thank you again, commissioners, for being in the community, on the ground, listening, and getting something on this agenda that's commission driven. Nicely done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on the adoption of ordinance 11-2022? The adoption of ordinance 11-2022 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of ordinance 12-2022. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
The city adopted an ordinance on March 6, 1979, to establish the City of Battle Creek Downtown Development Authority and designate the boundaries of the authority's development area. The plan has been amended several times over the years, including removing land from the boundaries. Pursuant to Part 2 of Act 57, the Downtown Development Authority prepared and reviewed, and by resolution adopted August 22, 2022, approved, recommended, and submitted an amendment to the plan to the City Commission in order to amend the projects it intends to undertake. This proposed ordinance would amend Chapter 276 Downtown Development Authority in compliance with Public Act 57 of 2018, the Recodified Tax Increment Financing Act, to approve amendment to the Tax Increment Financing and Development Plan of the City of Battle Creek Downtown Development Authority.
Move for the adoption of ordinance 12-2022.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to adopt ordinance 12-2022. Are there any public comments at this time? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, are there any commission comments? Any commission comments? Seeing none, would you please vote on the adoption of ordinance 12-2022? The adoption of ordinance 12-2022 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is public comment regarding consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda. It's limited to 3 minutes per individual. If you'd like to make a public comment regarding the consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you to come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and address before making your comments and indicate which resolution you are speaking to. Are there any public comments at this time? Are there any public comments? Kathy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for correcting me earlier. I just want to speak in support of the expansion, the special use permit for the 175 College Street parcel. I think that's a fabulous idea to include a pharmacy on that piece of property, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands how critical that is, especially for folks with mental health issues, to be able to get their meds before they leave the facility. As one of the commissioners noted, usually they won't if they can't get it there. So I'm in support of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other public comments at this time? Any other public comments? Seeing none, any commission comments? We have a motion.
Move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Is there any questions by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on the consent agenda? The consent agenda has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 528. Madam Clerk, when you're ready. Excuse me, that's the right one, yep.
Yes. The City of Battle Creek has been awarded $519,224 from the Office of Justice Programs. The grant period begins October 1, 2022, and ends September 30, 2025. The goal of this initiative is to expand BCPD's collaborative response and create a more comprehensive effort by law enforcement, the local mental health agency, and social service organizations to connect individuals with mental health treatment and other services, therefore reducing the number of arrests that may involve a mental health issue, as well as providing victim services. This resolution seeks authorizing for the city manager to accept a grant in the amount of $519,224 from the Office of Justice Programs and to establish the appropriate budget.
Move for the approval of Resolution 528.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 528. Are there any questions by the commission, clarifications, or concerns? Commissioner Blood.
Yep, no concerns, but I know Chief is here, and I love when Chief can answer questions and make programs like this shine.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? Or
I do, but unless you want to start, otherwise I have some great leading questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So first of all, I love the robust 10-page narrative. It was great. If anyone hasn't read it, please do so. It was fantastic. In that document, you provide a lot of statistics about our community here and how we measure up in comparison to other counties, Michigan, and the U.S., and how our residents need access to exactly what you're asking for in this grant and exactly what Summit Point is expanding for. So there are a few things. One, can you take that 10 pages and summarize it into like 3 sentences of, I know it's really hard, summarize it into 3 sentences of demonstrates the dire need of this program?
I'll try to do it under 3 minutes. How's that?
Okay, under 3 minutes, okay, as long as you get it, that's good.
All right. Well, I tell you, the mental health problem in America is a national challenge that we have to deal with locally. It's something we haven't been able to resolve at that level, and so because of that, at the local level, we have to do things that normally we can't afford. That's why we went after the grant. It was in 2016 that we started our mental health program, aggressive mental health program, partnered completely with Summit Point, who is our community mental health provider, and they, in conjunction with us, have been jointly looking at all of the gaps throughout the community, whether it's access to mental health medications, whether it's access to real community mental health, which has been the approach, strategic approach from the government or from the nation since the late 70s, to access to absolute care. Real time on a 24-hour basis. The sad part is we haven't figured it out. Still to this day, the default location and treatment facility are jails. Matter of fact, in Ottawa County, they're building a jail that is specially designed, or a wing that's specially designed just to deal with mental health patients. And I think that's a tragedy. With as much as we know and as much as we hear about mental health in America, we see it played out every single day. And so because of that, we have to deal with it, and this is how we're dealing with it. We sought after this grant. We want to be able to provide folks on these calls with mental health expertise. I think our CIT officers are well trained. They do a great job, but sometimes they need a little bit more help, and that's why we've gone after this position. It's something we can't provide, hence why we've partnered with Summit Point.
Fantastic. And in this, you talk about and identify resources and folks who will interact with people on the ground. And you are going to be, this will be the first time that you'll, in one of these phases, will be putting out a mobile response unit. Can you describe what that is going to look like here in Battle Creek and how it's going to impact those who interact with that unit?
Yes. So one thing I want to make very clear is mental health, the crisis mental health team has been responding even today. They still do that for Summit Point. Oftentimes those calls don't even come through 911. They're handled through the mental health crisis line. That's happening real time now. This person would be specifically assigned to the police department for those calls, those exceptional calls that we get, where sometimes that dispatcher doesn't know exactly what should happen based on the call itself, and so that level of expertise will be there. Or if that person isn't there, officers, especially CIT trained officers, will know who to call to reach out to resolve that problem.
Fantastic. And one of the things I didn't see in here, and perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong, is how would fire and EMT service fit into this process, this response, and the communicating part back and forth with Fusion and officers and mental health? Because sometimes fire will show up first, or EMT. What might that look like, that relationship?
I think we're all looking for touch points where we can interact more. I think our entire current study with police, fire, and EMS is a part of that discussion about where can we look at joint opportunities where we can train together to resolve some of these on-the-ground, real-world crises that don't maybe specifically touch on something specific to EMS, something specific to fire, or something specific to PD. With our new fire chief here, I know he and I have already had touched on that very discussion just the other day.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Chief, for spearheading this, putting so much time into it, being so robust with your program. I'm really looking forward to see how this plays out over the next couple of years.
Well, so am I. Thank you. Any other questions?
Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I have a comment. Thank you, Chief. I hope what we're experiencing here, what I tend to feel is a shift, almost a seismic shift in how we're approaching community. And I want to applaud the PD for taking the lead on that and actually being more proactive than more reactive. And as a master certified trainer in the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, there is research that shows that in some prisons, more than 95% of prisoners have experienced significant adverse childhood experiences. So they've had a lot of trauma in their lives. They're not getting better in prison. The things that are hurting them, that have caused them to behave in the way they did, that got them into prison, isn't changing because of where they are. And so this shift in law enforcement, taking a more empathetic approach, being able to partner with community organizations like Summit Point, I feel like is such a critical step that cannot be understated how important it is. Yes. When we can actually redirect folks to where they need to go, where they can actually get help so they can shift their lives in a way that'll be productive and helpful and help all of us thrive, the better off we all are. And I know that you feel that, those who are in the prisons feel that, right? That this is not the place they need to be and we need to find alternatives. So thank you very much for what you're doing, taking this leadership on, and thank you to the city for actually seeking out additional resources, because we don't have them locally. We're going to have to find them somewhere else. And I really hope that we're really monitoring this to see what is the impact overall in this. Are we seeing a decrease in folks having to be sent to jail and prison as a result? So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 528? Resolution 528 has been approved, and congratulations, Police Chief Blocker. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 529. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This petition requesting a special use permit was received from Jeannie Goodrich of Summit Point for property at 175 College Street to allow for the alteration of the building located at 175 College Street, which houses a medical practice, Calhoun County Community Mental Health Authority. This resolution seeks to approve S-15-2022 for special use permit for the continuance and alteration of a building located at 175 College Street, parcel number 9730-00-052-0, which houses an existing medical practice, Calhoun County Community Mental Health Authority, in excess of 20,000 square feet, contingent upon the property being successfully rezoned from T3 Neighborhood Commercial District to T4 Downtown Commercial District.
Move for the approval of Resolution 529.
Support.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 529. Are there any commission comments at this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on 529, please? Resolution 529 has been approved, and congratulations, Mr. Lindsay. Next item on our agenda is general public comment. If you'd like to make general public comment regarding matters over which the City Commission has control, please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, and then come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address prior to beginning your comment. Are there any public comments at this time? Attorney Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor Benke. I just thought I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the role of Chief Blocker as a Summit Point board member. He and I are both former Summit Point board members, and his passion for what he just talked about was a big part of what led to where we're at with the Summit Point First Step. So thank you for supporting that. I'd love to talk for an hour about how interacting with these different agencies can help to better serve people who are in need of mental health. But he did it so well, I don't see any reason to do that. So thank you all for your action tonight. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. Autumn Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things about the program that Mr. Blocker was just talking about. I heard certified and trained. I did not hear the word licensed. There's an agency called LARA in this state, Licensed and Regulatory Agency. So I'm just wondering, when those calls are being made, I hope that they're being made by a licensed professional, like a LMSW or something, and not just a trained or certified person. I've been trained and certified in many things that allows me to do only so much. Just like you couldn't drive a car with a certificate, you need a license. So I would hope that while we can still have people that are trained and certified, just like any other chain of command, above them we have a licensed person, so there's oversight, so that somebody isn't accused of practicing medicine without a license. Another thing I'd like to address that was talked about the barricades and stuff from the people earlier. Commissioner, excuse me, I didn't catch your name, Wilson, had mentioned something. Numerous people mentioned subpoenas. And I'm here to tell you that that's a very serious thing. I have lost my right to basically practice law in a pro se manner in this county. That's why all of my stuff has had to go through the Western District Federal Court. You may not have personally been subpoenaed, but you said something about you're accessible to call. You can't serve a subpoena over the phone if you were subject to that. So while you may have used that in that experience, that's not an acceptable way to serve a subpoena. Also, I'm sure, I don't know how familiar you are with law, but I've had, along with many other people, problems where when we are serving subpoenas or legally conducting business, how many attorneys in this room have had guns pointed at them, surrounded by officers while conducting legal business? So if there's any fear to be had, it's by us, the citizens, because I know myself, along with many others that have done their citizen right to petition their government for redresses at the barrel of a gun. And you guys are concerned about protecting yourself. So I just want to make sure that when we're looking at this issue, we're looking at it from both sides, because I think both sides have a right to be safe and not fear each other. But I want to make sure that we're looking at it, and you need to talk to some people that have had other experiences than your own. We all have our own stories to tell, and they're all unique, and they're all just as valuable. And I think we can all learn something from each other. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Yes, Pastor Monique French.
Monique French, 26 Roosevelt Avenue West. Mayor, Commissioners, I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity to stand before you and to say thank you for supporting the Resolution 526. The Neighborhood Planning Council, looking forward to working with you all in this endeavor.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comments at this time? John Kennefick.
John Kennefick, 234 South Avenue. First, I have to do a correction from the last commission meeting. I did misspeak when I said I went to a meeting of the NAACP. That was part of the members of a meeting that was held at 400 Walbaskin Road, which was a church. Many other groups were there, Women's League and other places like Voices. I only mentioned them inadvertently. That was a screw up on my part. Anyway, putting that aside, I have this little flyer here that somebody gave to me, and it's a person that's running for the ward. And it says in the flyer, transparency, transparency, transparency. Okay? Last year, you passed 2 resolutions that incurred about 152 cost increases to the citizens of Battle Creek. They're going to get about 20 over the next 5 years. But even though they're going to be paying these cost increases, commercial properties and industrial properties will be raising their costs because of these increases. Were you transparent, all commissioners, in regards to letting everyone know that they're getting lots of water, sewer, water readiness fees? Also, as I spoke on July 5th, you passed another 250 cost increases. Were you very transparent to let everyone know that they were going to be hit by more cost increases? Did you let them know that walking on their property, private property, which is sort of their castle in their kingdom, you decided that you'd allow door knockers to be put on there by city services? Basically, you're saying that's our property and not yours. Were you transparent and let the citizens of Battle Creek know that their property rights were coming under attack by the government and the City Commission of Battle Creek? In regards to taxation and all kinds of fees, there was a man named Milton Friedman, and he was a famous economist back in the 1980s. And he wrote a book called Free to Choose. And he did an estimation of how much people were taxed in the United States, and it was approximately about 40% of their income when they went and did a 40-hour work week. Then 20 years later, James Bovard wrote 2 books, either Lost Rights or Freedom in Chains, and 20 years later he did an estimation that you go to work for a 40-hour work week and they take about 50% of your work pay. Every time you do all kinds of things, whether it be the city government level, county government level, state government level, or federal level, you find that you're moving beyond the 2000 time period of James Bovard's books, and you're becoming, and citizens of Battle Creek and throughout the United States are becoming more indentured servants. So are you going to be very transparent about all the costs that you're going to give the citizens of Battle Creek, or is that just talk? Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Adam?
Hello again. What does cronyism look like? I think a lot of people don't know that. They don't pay attention to it. But our community has had rampant cronyism going on for far too long. So we need to point it out when it happens directly in front of us. So what we just witnessed here at this meeting is the admission that we have one mental health agency for the community here, with decades of numbers getting worse in regards to mental health. Decades we've had these same organization that's been running our mental health. And now we just witnessed the mayor here thanking the attorney who literally just admitted to us a crony connection, in a way, with the police and other things that were going on here, was congratulated for the ordinance that the attorney, who was one of, maybe a senator, maybe possibly, we could link into some of the cronyism that's happened across Calhoun County. But we just got to watch this situation here. Maybe we have a problem in corruption in leadership. I mean, maybe that organization has had problems in the past. Have they not? With embezzlement, some major issues? It's just reality. So we really just got told by the mayor here, congratulations to you who's talking us into doing this change, controlling the one organization that is not helping the community. That's sole purpose is to help people with mental health issues in this community. And then we have Gestapo tactics by your police force, silencing people like myself at meetings like this who get upset because you all are crooked politicians doing things that many of you know are wrong. How many of you sleep at night is beyond me. Many of them that have sat on this board, how dare you ever step back into the public arena as public officials? Because we literally just watched the cronyism that's wrong in our community happen right here in front of us at this meeting. It was all recorded, and I thank you for that, because it's showing more of the story of this community that is being seen by the world. Because you all are on the world stage. Because it's bad here. Whether you want to recognize and truly admit it or not, it is bad. And it needs to stop. You all have an ability to stop it. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, any commission comment? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you for attending.
It's all right.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
I just have a statement I'd like to read in closing. According to the FBI's latest statistics, anti-Jewish hate crimes accounted for 60.2% of all hate crimes motivated by religion, which is a shocking number for a group that accounts only 2% of the U.S. population. On top of that, this past month, acts of verbal and physical violence against Jews have spiked. And while I haven't heard of anything local, these attacks are alarming to the Jewish community overall, and they must be equally shocking to all of us. An attack on any group based on race, religion, color, sexual orientation, or national origin, including Jewish people, is an assault on the values of diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion that are the bedrock of this country and that we as a city strive to uphold for our neighbors. As chair of the city's Human Relations Board, I call on all of us to take a stand and publicly denounce anti-Semitism in all of its forms, to call it out when you see it or read it or hear it. We're on a dangerously slippery slope if we don't. And as a wise person once said, and I'm paraphrasing here, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate your comments. Are there any other commission comments tonight? Commissioner Lynn Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure of being introduced to some of the work that the Summit Point is doing in our community. And I believe I probably get the statistic not exactly correct, but it was in the neighborhood since the First Step facility began servicing our community, that I think it was over 9,000 individuals had been assisted. And I think that's amazing, and that's helpful to those individuals and everyone connected to them. And so I do want to lift that up, that we do have stats that are saying people are getting helped, and I think that's important.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your comments. Any other commissioners that would like? Commissioner Morris.
I just wanted to say that as a commission, we do have some work to do on transparency, and that's one of the things that I think is important to our city. And that's all I wanted to say on it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Any other commission comments? Seeing none, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.